Okay, notifications are out. We are live. It's March 24th, 2021. This is Higher by MVP. Phones are open, 833-311-1984. I think I have a voicemail to respond to. I respond to all voicemails now. So 833-311-1984. Even if we're not live, we will take your messages and respond to them. All right, let's go ahead and go right into the voicemail. All right, I'm not going to dox anybody, but let's just play it. If you don't want it to be played. Okay, here we go.
I was wondering what you thought about this little sticking point I have, one amongst an ocean of many with the media right now. I personally think that any media outlet, local, national, international, I don't give a fuck, should be legally required to explain why and give an adequate justification for their rationalization of why it should be done, why they would feel compelled to lighten the face of a Muslim man so as to make him appear Caucasian. Some outlets even so much as pronounce his word to make it phonetically Caucasian, which is interesting given a recent shooting.
Okay, so he's talking about the Boulder shooting, the super psyop of 322, the predictable super psyop of 322. Shout out to the Skull and Bone Society. We reverse engineered that clown show yesterday. Top to bottom, it was a hoax. But yeah, I did comment on this. The media was quick to rush to judgment and say, oh, it's another white guy with a gun. Typical. And then they found out, well, no, actually, it's a Muslim. So the guy was doing it as retaliation, in fact, for a white supremacist attack. So if anything, this was an anti-racist guy. They should have been cheering him on or something. I mean, does it make any sense? I don't think so. I mean, the motive is bad, but anyway, this is a template psyop. We've examined it. Nobody really died or got hurt. And I can't say that on Twitter right now. They banned me for the next 7 hours. I got banned from Twitter for making a satirical joke about chemtrails giving you nanobots that will make you susceptible to demonic possession when they turn on the 5G towers. I mean, obviously it's a joke, making a mockery of a conspiracy theory that nobody really believes. And they banned me for it. And I appealed the decision, and I said, please, Twitter, it's a joke. It's satire. Nobody could really believe in satanic nanobots. And they stood by their decision. They gave you the option. They say, you can take down the post and accept that you violated the rules and we'll turn you back on, or you can appeal it. Well, if you appeal it, then you're pretty much kicked out for a day. So anyway, banned from Twitter. So let me get back to the message again, 833-311-1984. And he's just commenting on the fact that they try to brand this guy as a continuation of the shooting that we just had in Atlanta. Another staged fake event. And one more thing, and I commented on this yesterday, the timing of it. The timing is not coincidental. That you had the Atlanta shooter, multiple shootings against a target immigrant group, arrested after a pit maneuver, which is the police run him off the road and pull him out of his car. You know, this is an identical storyline to the Christchurch shootings. And then the shooter in Boulder is supposedly motivated 2 days from the anniversary of Christchurch to retaliate in this way. So in other words, all these stories overlap in unbelievable ways. And when you get into the symbolism, look, this isn't some bulletin board with a bunch of notes connected by yarns, and it's not a mind map. We're just saying, hey, look, it's King Super store number 33. The Union represents 33 people. They arrest the guy, and he comes out in this Masonic-like getup, shirtless, one leg, painted red, no bloody footprints, at 3:30. I mean, the entire thing was just replete with symbolism and overt indicators of it being a drill. I mean, these crisis actors are laughing. They're laughing at everybody. I mean, the whole thing's a big joke. Anyway, That's the good news. Nobody died. But again, this guy is commenting on the fact that the media was quick to rush to just basically hold white America guilty for King Supers. And the guy actually wanted to go shoot up a MAGA gathering. I mean, think about it. This is somebody the media could get behind. And this probably explains why the FBI did nothing to stop him. Oh, one more thing. There was a police chief who was out there at the press conference. Her last name, and this is in Boulder, and she was presiding over this PSYOP. Her last name is Jokerst, as in Joker, S-T, Jokerst. You can look it up. She's there in Boulder. And this was on 322. Very interesting because the Boston bomber, also named Joker, was in the headlines that day. And if you study these PSYOPs, as we do, you'll see that there are certain terms, buzzwords, code phrases, just they're insider lingo, and it has meanings that extend far beyond these isolated incidents. And so that's just a noteworthy component. But let's hear the rest of this individual's critique of the racist media. Like, we get it. You know, they want to ascribe a new form of blood libel. They want to pre-convict all light-skinned people of having the like racist mind virus just innately a part of their DNA. They're trying to say you're born racist. Babies are racist. I mean, this is bullshit. It's almost as bad as the environmentalists. You have a carbon footprint. Like, babies are not sustainable. Anyway, let's continue with the voicemail.
That's on my mind currently. That they're doing exactly all the things that I just talked about. With the fact that this guy's name is, you got to do quite the mental gymnastics to twist that one into a white name. But they're doing all this, and they're connecting it to whatever the shooting that happened right before that, and I guess it was a white person. I mean, all this bullshit. It's bullshit. None of this shit happens. I mean, come on. I mean, no. It's retarded. None of this happens. No. The only real shooting that's taken place in America in the past, 20 years is that motherfucker who got sent in by the feds to shoot James Alefantis' hard drive, okay? To walk right up to his office to punch out the keyhole, which James Alefantis is clearly the one who did, and shoot his computer in the hard drive, okay? That's the only real one. I can tell because there's tangible victims,
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, we have manufactured outrage over non-victims, token victims, victims who are only considered victims because it's politically expedient to consider them as victims. Meanwhile, the actual victims don't really exist on the world stage. They're kind of on the fringe. They don't even get any attention at all. And he has a point here, but I think we all know. I mean, it's not a secret that the mass media has this color-coded system. They're like, well, is it a mass shooter? Is it an event worth reporting on? Is it a hate crime? Well, let's just take a look and see the racial demographics and the breakdowns. And they look at it this way, and they selectively report things. Look how quick they were to report on the hate crime committed against Jussie Smollett, who was lynched, covered in bleach. I don't know, did they set him on fire before they dismembered and killed him? And then the next day it turns out, no, it was a hoax. But for 24 hours, the world was reacting as though Jussie Smollett had been taken from us by a bunch of MAGA hat-wearing racists. Alyssa Milano came out and said, the MAGA hat is the new Klan hood. They lynched Jussie. Anyway, Jussie's just fine. But the media didn't know this. We knew it first. That very day, I remember looking at the story and I was going to say, I said to everybody in the live stream, we all know what this event is. It's another hate crime hoax. And, by the way, more than 66% of hate crimes reported are later turned out to be hoaxes. And I didn't even want to comment on it because I didn't want to lose my channel. I said, I can call this fake and they will censor me. And 24 hours later, the media is like, oh, it was fake. It's not fake until they say it's fake. They are the arbiters of reality. It's not racist unless they say it's racist. And you have actual racist hate crimes that are mal-reported, misreported, lied about. And I don't even care to report on these horrible stories, but Group A kills a member of Group B. Group C is scapegoated. And it's just constant, and it's repetitive. And it's, at this point, the dishonesty, the mendacity of the media is on full display and has been since really forever. But 2020, nobody has any excuse for taking it seriously. The MSM has long since jumped the shark. It's show business for ugly people. All right, I mean, that's kind of what it is. I mean, ugly inside. They're very beautiful people in the mass media, but they're here to decimate society, pit people against each other. I mean, this is the perpetual war that Orwell described in 1984, which wasn't a projection about what the future would be. 1984 was a description of life on Earth at all times. Okay, so let me go ahead and play the rest of this voicemail.
We also talk about how Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are both alive, both not in custody, and Trump is the one who helped them get off of out of stateside. Okay, cool. Have a good day, man.
All right, appreciate it.
You're the tits. You're the bee's knees. Top drawer, top shelf. Keep up the good work. I bet you slay mad pussy, bruh.
Okay, appreciate the voicemail again. 833-311-1984. And I agree with everything that he said. And they started this whole thing of misidentifying the perpetrator as white a long time ago. Remember when Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin? And I thought the whole thing was real. And I still have my doubts as to whether or not it's fake. But they described Zimmerman, who's some I don't know where his background is. He comes from a multiracial background, but he was described as white. So later the media said, well, he's a white Hispanic. And I'm like, what's a white Hispanic? Well, someone had looked this up. It may even have been Rush Limbaugh or Breitbart. They looked it up and they found that actually the term white Hispanic had no precedent. They invented it for the purpose of their narrative. Jordan says, Trayvon Masonic leg pose. Oh, yeah, you have his dad who's a Mason. There's so much there. There are some indicators that his brother is, I mean, this is how they described it, if I'm getting this right, that they created the secondary character of Trayvon out of his brother. So Trayvon doesn't actually exist. You know, a similar thing was actually done with some of these other high-profile school shootings. I would recommend the work of Jim Fetzer, jimfetzer.org. He's done extensive work on this, and he's been censored even on WordPress for uncovering this, that they will take a sibling and they'll take the siblings' photos or your photos, and they'll take your younger photos and insert them into a shot and say it's a sibling. So for example, you could take let's just say your second grade photos and put it in a picture today and deep fake it and say, yeah, this is my kid. Well, it's actually you. Easy to pull off. Looks convincing. And then when you fake kill the kid in some kind of a psyop, well, now you look like a truly aggrieved person. This is where it's at. It says Trayvon fake homie. Right. Well, it looked real. I mean, the body on the ground, it looked like bodies on the ground would look. The story wasn't all that far-fetched. Zimmerman was a mall cop, run amok, picked a fight, and it turned out ugly. So I didn't think that it seemed all that fake, but it did seem that everything afterward, as far as the movement that arose around it, was completely set up in advance. There were a number of indicators there that made me think, well, this can't be completely as it seems. Same with the Michael Brown one. Hands up, don't shoot. Clearly a Masonic gesture. So are they appropriating real events for these for the revolution, or is this again another example of a psyop? But again, if you look at all the different roles that you could possibly play in a movie, the easiest character to play is a dead one. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're just looking at a crisis actor playing dead. Someone said, did Larry Johnson get banned from Twitter? You know, I haven't checked, but Larry Johnson sent a tweet today at 9:03 a.m. that was identical to a tweet that I sent out yesterday, where I was juxtaposing the Masonic initiate and the super shooter, King Super Shooter, as he was escorted out at 3:30 p.m. One leg was just painted red. And he was shirtless between two cops. Like I said, it looked like a Masonic initiate. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they banned Larry Johnson, easily one of the best accounts on Twitter as far as breaking these events down. Although I don't know if he's 100% auto-hoaxing, but I don't hold it against somebody if they're only 90% of the way there. Poison Trail of Greed says the guy they hauled off with the bloody leg was way older than the picture of who they say pulled the trigger. Right, that's what I thought. The guy looked like 45 years old, 50 years old, kind of pudgy, balding on top. I saw the beard and I thought Colorado. At first I thought it was my friend Nathan Thompson. He's a Bible salesman, a flat Bible salesman. But I look closer, I'm like, okay, well, clearly it's just one of these Colorado mental patient typical shooters that they just gin up every few years. And Colorado patients are always the same template. It's been this way for some time, since Littleton. And all these events tie together, by the way. All their names even. Dylan Roof is a reference to Littleton, Dylan. Even this shooter in Atlanta, some have noted, has a very striking resemblance to Dylan Roof. Something to look into. But yeah, it is strange. He looked a lot older. But then you look at his pictures, and it's like, well, there's something weird about that. We'll keep looking into it. And I did examine the pictures. If you looked at yesterday, we had a live stream talk about this in detail. We went through all the pictures, how the photographer had to have been running laps around the people who were being escorted out by the cop, taking pictures as they were being saved. Just clearly staged propaganda. Okay, Ready or Not says, in 1981, I had a cousin born to a white man and a Hispanic woman, so that's a white Hispanic. That precedes the George Zimmerman shooting. Okay, well, no, the term, though, used in the media as though it's a separate category, and now he's actually white for the purpose of it's a white on black hate crime. No, that term wasn't in use in the media. That's the context. I mean, maybe that was a box you could check, or you check two boxes or something, or you hit other and you mix and match. I mean, the whole thing is just statist nonsense, pseudoscience. It's like, wait a minute. You don't have to choose your gender till you're like 5 now. But your race is assigned even before you're born. Your race, check the box. But it's like, okay, well, what's more objective? This nebulous concept of race, or what is actually on the body or not on the body. It's like, wait a minute here. We should all be able to just choose our race, if that's the way we're going to play. And identifying somebody racially should be more offensive than identifying somebody's gender inaccurately. So, you misgender somebody, that's a capital offense. They kill you for that stuff. Well, at this point, we're like, wait, how many people are out there? Millions of people were misconstruing this individual as white, as a MAGA, when in fact he was an anti-MAGA. Infinite Plane Radio, what are your thoughts on tonight's topic, the shooter at the super duper psyop on 322?
Hey, IPS. Long time no talk. Stranger days here, if you remember me from about a year ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we see you in the chat all the time. Always appreciate your commentary.
As far as this new PSYOP, it's starting to wear thin on me. I'm just not really paying much attention to them anymore because I know and you know what they are. It certainly would be nice to wake more people up to it, and occasionally I do make some inroads into that, but it's getting more and more difficult, and a lot of people don't want to hear it. You know how it is. So, yeah, we're going to have some more of these this year, I'm sure. We're probably going to have the big sky collapse. The sky is going to fall and all that. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happens this year. Like, I think you've spelled that out very well. And when that happens, and we try to tell people that this is all just a show, they're just going to look at us with glazed eyes, man. You know that.
Yeah, I kind of get that too. You would think that 2020 would have been a major wake up call and it would have destroyed faith in establishment media and science. But no, it's actually like Stockholm Syndrome. They have fallen in love even deeper now with their captor.
Well, if I make a comment on that point, my job has me talking to dealing with a lot of customers who are elderly, and a strange phenomenon that I'm seeing is or experiencing is that a lot of these people, without me prompting them anything, talking about any kind of a scam pandemic or whatever, they're telling me, you know what? Yeah, we just got our second shot today, or yeah, I've got my shot lined up for next week. I didn't even ask them, and they just voluntarily tell me that they're getting their shots or they've had their shot. And I really don't care if you want to be a human guinea pig, that's fine. But why are you telling me this? I never asked you, but I'm getting this all the time. I feel like nurses that are assaulting these people with their needles are telling them, be sure to tell all your friends and everybody that you're a good propaganda soldier and you're a hero for the cause, and be sure to spread the word that you got your shot today, just like the I voted sticker that you get whenever you go and cast your worthless vote. You know what I'm saying?
It's the exact same thing. It's virtue signaling. I voted. It's like, oh, okay, so you have a sticker to advertise that you make bad decisions. And it is tantamount to saying, I'm saved. And sure, when people are saved, they want to go share it with the world. Have you seen these people like on Twitter? They do these vax selfies and they cry afterwards. I feel so safe now. Like they really feel like they're saved by the blood of Bill Gates.
Yeah. It's a scene, man. It's a real scene. It's a scene in the act of the world stage, the world play that the guy that we call Shakespeare told us about supposedly a few hundred years ago, and it's definitely these people don't even know they are actors in the show. They don't even realize it, that they are just crisis actors, and they're getting their crisis actor pay from their Uncle Joe, you know.
Yeah, that's actually the case. I mean, it's really quite eye-opening to go through this, and I'm glad that we have a network of perceivers and knowers and people who are actually analyzing this stuff, and that we're all on the same sheet more or less, or we're looking in the same direction. Because yes, we're definitely surrounded by a multitude of confused souls, hypnotized, spellbound. I mean, how else can you describe it? They think they're going to Mars next year.
It is some form of hypnosis, and I think we've all been, victims of it to some degree in our lifetime. Obviously, when you're in kindergarten, you don't really have a leg to stand on to talk back to or you're in first, second, third grade, whatever. You just can't talk back to your teacher and ask questions. And like I always did, I was always the troublemaker, in school, because I just didn't buy but I did buy some of it. Yeah, I bought a lot of the BS, but ultimately, yeah, we were brainwashed from children, and it's hard to become unbrainwashed. It's very difficult.
Oh yeah, you know what? This is one of the reasons why I like to refer to various movies where you see people going through the experience of this unbrainwashing. For example, Jim Carrey, from the moment the satellite falls to the point where he exits the stage on the stairs, or the movie Room, where the child born in captivity in a shed finds out there's a world out there, or The Village. Like, these movies are the movies that I go to as the best example to illustrate. Like, this is kind of what it's like when you reverse engineer the false worldview that really, you inherit the thing. You don't have any defense against it. We're born into a world of lies.
Well, I haven't seen The Room yet, and I want to, but I have seen The Village a few times, and I've seen The Truman Show multiple times, and both of those movies really do spell it out. I think The Village is really good. I think it's just a super metaphor for what we're going through. And it's just amazing to me that people can watch these movies and yet not get the hint that this is talking about you. And this is how you have been deceived. And they're putting it right in your face. And Stanley Kubrick and all the rest of it, all these, they're telling us, they're showing us, and we get it. Only the very minute few of us get this. The rest of the people are so hypnotized. I don't know. I don't understand why they cannot. Yeah, they're. What's the word? I mean, is it hypnotized? Is it just that, or is it more than that? Is it some sort of a? I don't know, man. It seems like it's a magical spell that's cast, and these people just are not able to wake up from the spell. They're like what's the Sleeping Beauty or whatever. It can't wake up until a prince kisses them or something like that. I don't know, man. It's
right. It's like
it's a weird world.
This is what gives rise to this idea that there are NPCs or something, and this has always perplexed me because I watched the Truman Show. When you analyze it, it's pretty much the Sirius, the dog star falls from the sky, causes him to realize that everyone is lying to him about the world. It's much bigger, and he's been deceived his entire life. So it's all about this guy leaving the world after having this major awakening. But the levels of symbolism that aren't meant for the average ticket buyer suggest here that, yeah, there's a very sophisticated message being sent, and it's not for the mainstream. And then it makes me wonder, well, then who's meant to see it? Are they, that's always been the perplexing thing to me. And then you point it out to people who aren't really impressed. They're just like more interested in the hairstyle of the actors or just the mundane aspects of it. They don't see the significance of it. And that's always been one of the things that's kind of nagged at me. In fact, the other Jim Carrey movie he did that connects to this is the movie called The Number 23, where a guy goes crazy following these synchronicities, and he kind of goes through the experience that people do watching his movies, trying to explain this stuff to people.
Yeah, I saw the number 23 movie several years ago, and it was pretty intense. And he's been in another movie that he was in that was a sort of a mind warp type of movie. Was the what was it called? The Eternal Sunshine, Light of the some kind of something about the Eternal Sunshine. Somebody in chat maybe can bring it up. Light of the Eternal Sun. I forget.
With the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and there's one in Montauk about erasing the mind.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Like people would go say, wait, I don't like this experience, or I hated this relationship. Can you just delete it from my memory? And you'd go in and they would have these memories deleted. And that to me is sort of what they're doing collectively when they're censoring all of the communications that we have. They're curating reality, trying to create a spotless mind that we all share, a hive mind.
Exactly. And I wanted to, in this phone call, I just want to let you know, even though I haven't called in probably about a year, I've been listening to you, and I thought there for a while that you went off grid again, but I think you were just in California taking care of some business there, and I'm glad to hear you back. And I just never can seem to catch you when you're live, because I usually get to bed a little bit earlier than that, but it's been great listening to you and having very good callers and very good guests. Mika Dante, whatever his name is, and of course Tim Truth calls in a lot. I like him, and I liked your conversation with the Crater Earth guy. That was pretty funny. It was interesting, and I'm looking into that, but you've had a lot of really good callers, and I'm impressed with you in that you are able to take callers in who will hold a different point of view on some topics, and you don't just blast them out of the sky with it. And you sort of go with roll with the punches, and there's we can't all believe the same things. It's not going to happen. And you're a very good host, and I've been listening. Like I said, I've been listening all year, and I'll be back.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your comments, and thank you for calling in. And definitely, the objective here is to improve the quality of content, as in, software, everything we're using, we're improving as we go, but also the structure. So every night we're going to do the same time, 6 nights a week usually, but I'm maintaining this rigid schedule. It'll make it easier for people to catch us, as well as the replays the next day. And I'm going to have repeat guests, like Crater Earth will be a regular guy. I'll get him back on. But yeah, the objective here is to maintain this thing indefinitely. I took a week off to go take care of some things, went out to California, and I was actually surprised at how lax people actually are on the whole masking and social distancing. It's almost like the media has to exaggerate how compliant people are.
I agree with you. I'm in Florida, which we were the state that a lot of people say are the freest state in the union, and lots of people are moving here now and leaving New York and Illinois and coming to Florida. And of course, they're going to bring their damn liberal politics with them, unfortunately. But Florida never had a mask mandate, and our governor, which I'm not into politics, but our governor gave us back. If you can say that, our freedom. You can't give back that which you can take away, or you can't have that which that can be taken away, such as freedom. But back in the end of summer, he opened up the state, and Florida called a lot of hell, or Governor Ron DeSantis called a lot of hell for being COVID spreaders. And it turns out that Florida has a lot less so-called deaths or from this so-called pandemic than New York and Illinois and all the liberal states. So here we are. I still go out though. I'm working a hurricane storm in Pensacola and doing some of the restoration work. And in Pensacola, it's different than my hometown of Panama City. Panama City, nobody wears a mask. I mean, but here in Pensacola, they still wear them. A bunch of old people, military town, and I still see them. And you go into Publix, and 90% of the people are wearing a mask, but I don't. And they don't say anything to me, so I've never had anybody give me any grief about me not wearing a mask. So I don't worry about it, and I think it is overblown, like you say. I think it's pockets of the country who are still in fear. And this particular community where I'm in right now, I'm actually physically in Pensacola right now. This place is full of a lot of military people, and they are going to listen to their masters, their commanders or whatever, and they're going to wear their masks. I will say this: I took an Uber into downtown to a little karaoke bar, and the Uber driver we started talking, and it turns out he was a libertarian. I said, "If you're a libertarian, why don't you take your mask off and I'll take mine off?" And he said, "Okay." And he said, "Thank you." He took his mask off, and I had my little bandito mask, a little bank robber type mask, and so we both took our mask off, and we were able to communicate in a free sense. But I had to initiate it because, according to Uber, you got to wear your mask, and you got to have your passengers wear a mask. And I just told him about halfway through the drive, I said, "Look, I don't need this if you don't." And he agreed, and he took it off, and we started talking about the good old days of the Ron Paul revolution of 2008, So, maybe there's hope.
Ron Paul was the only individual that made sense in 2020 outside of, I think, basically our channel and a couple of others, but he was the first one to call the whole thing out for what it was. But the next day, his son caught it and contradicted him. And I think that was just an operation because the guy was making way too much sense early on. And I'll have to find that article, and I'll post it on my blog. But Ron Paul on 3/11 or 3/12/2020 put out a really great piece where he said this is just an authoritarian dream come true. And everything he said still stands. Anyway, appreciate the call very much. Call back anytime.
You got it. I will, and keep the good guests that you got, the good callers that you've got. Oh, let me ask you. I got one question before we go. The Dark Matter Radio Network, right? Is that something that is Art Bell still involved with that, or the
yeah, sure.
guy's name?
Yes, Art.
They are still part of that.
Art Bell died.
I mean, I know Art Bell. I know Art Bell is dead. I'm just talking about his people. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what happened was afterward, because what he did was he had moved from radio to digital, because the digital revolution had started with regards to radio, it being decentralized, and a lot of it's gone video now, and it's kind of it's going through an interesting phase, I think. But anyway, the network continued without him, but as it kind of rolled along, there's a lot of attrition, and the company sold, and the new owner is primarily relying on me to take over as far as a program manager, curating content and bringing back the audience that it lost back in 2015.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, you're the right guy for the job, bro.
I think it's a great opportunity because if you look at all the people who've gone through that network over the years who are still interested in reappearing, I think it's gonna be a very interesting time ahead. We'll be able to kind of, I think, I don't know, see how ideas have evolved over the years. I want to talk to some people who claim alien abductions and just see, what other kind of explanations they have, and also just throw the whole flat Earth curveball at them to see how they take that. People who are, mainstays of alternative thought back when I think it was more gate kept prior to the internet for sure, and the most extreme you could get before was pretty much X-Files, I think. Nobody went that much further beyond that. And the thing is, mainstream conspiracy entertainment never questions establishment science. It always assumes it to be true.
I was going to say when you mentioned the alien abductions, of course, Art Bell had a lot of UFO type stuff, and we've got the Ancient Aliens on the History Channel, and I think that a lot of people may be starting to question, the History Channel keeps shoving it down our throats that it had to have been aliens that built this crap in the past. And a lot of people are waking up to, well, maybe not. Maybe it was us or some people from another land on the other side of, or whatever, over the edge or whatever, that's right from this, plane that we live on, and not necessarily from the sky. And I think that a lot of people would be open to new discussions of who these so-called aliens are, if they do exist. And number two is, what about these? And I know you've delved into it just a little bit, but there's a lot of researchers that are looking into this Tartaria stuff and mud flood and new chronology of Anatoly Fomenko, and I think there's a lot of questions that are starting to spread out. And I don't believe that. I think it'd be a hard thing for YouTube and these other platforms to censor that kind of talk, because we're not really getting conspiratorial. We're just talking about history and stuff, and I think that's one of the things I see a lot of YouTube channels that are still thriving that are talking about that human, or what they call antiquitech, which instead of aliens having this technology, that it was actually humans or some form of humanity that had this stuff just a few hundred years ago, not necessarily 2, 3, 4,000 years ago. And so I'm very curious as to see where that's going to play out, and I hope that you would get some guests who, like John Levi or Levy, however you pronounce it, get guests like him onto your Dark Matters Network show. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, and that's absolutely the direction I want to go with this, because there's so many interesting individuals out there who I've heard and I've listened to many times. Graham Hancock, in fact, was on Joe Rogan, which is fairly mainstream, but he was talking about what appeared to be evidence of some sort of advanced infrastructure in South America beneath the forest, where he was suggesting what you're suggesting, that we're not talking about aliens, but we're talking about ancient civilizations, and that they were far more advanced, but that information has been suppressed. They left, they were annihilated. I don't know what the story is, but I like going down that direction, and it's far outside of politics where you get censored, and I think it's an interesting area to veer into, and that's definitely the direction we're going with it.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. I took you a little bit off of the track that you were on already regarding the current events, but hey, it's good talking to you again, and keep up the good work. I'll keep listening, and I'll call in when I can.
Awesome. Talk to you soon. All right, everyone, that's Stranger Days. You've no doubt seen him in the chat. Many of the chatters have called in the past. If you haven't, you're welcome to 833-311-1984. You can also introduce yourself on the forums. If you go to infiniteplane.media, we have the forum set up there for the purpose of promoting your channels, whatever you do, any topics you feel like discussing, any new releases. In fact, I'm still waiting to hear from Chief Crow's live performance at the Solar Return Festival today. Solar Return Festival. I don't know if they burned any human effigies. I wasn't there, but I know some people who were there, and hopefully we'll find out here soon. X322 says, I've done some deep research into Bill Nye's butt stuff. Adaptivia says, ancient mathematics. This is where it's at. It says, Ron Paul is a great character, though. Yeah, Ron Paul is. Rand Paul is not. I mean, Rand Paul's clearly a sellout. He was there to basically pull the rug out from underneath his father, who was making way too much sense. Salty Siren says, I thought it was on the 27th. Let me double check that. I hope I didn't send anybody out to South Carolina early. So it's called FlatEarthFestivals.com, the Solar Return Celebration. See who will be there. I mean, have I been sending out information, inaccurate information here? Yes, I have. Wow. Okay, well, that's actually good. It's 3:27, which means I'll definitely make sure to stream it on this channel. For some reason, I thought it was today. Excellent. Appreciate that. Chief Crow will be there, so go to FlatEarthFestivals.com if you want some information. If you're close to South Carolina and you haven't spent your crisis actor check yet, that's an option for you, a vacation option. A moment ago with Stranger Days, we were talking about Jim Carrey and the Truman Show and how the movie starts out where he's awakened by the star falling from the sky, the dog star. And he exits the world stage. He exits the Matrix, the hoaxed world. He exits via a staircase at the end, takes a bow, and he basically has a dramatic exit. Anyway, that exit scene is pretty much identical to the scene that we saw when Joe Biden tripped his way up the stairs into Air Force One and then saluted. And many have speculated that one of the body doubles portraying our president is in fact Jim Carrey. Nebulous07 says, what are your thoughts on the Suez Canal blockage? I haven't looked too much into it, although Tim Truth said it has Great Reset vibes all over it. Salty Siren says, I'd rather just donate money straight to Chief Crow. Go to Chief Crow's Bandcamp. You can download his tracks, and then you can pay what you feel like. Okay, check this out. Boris Johnson is a deep fake. This is the real topic tonight. Want to get to this. Boris Johnson is a deep fake. So basically, BOJO, and I knew there was something up with this guy, and there's no easy way to put this. This is a very strange rabbit trail to go down. But there are some who believe, and I kind of now think this is probably true, that Boris Johnson is not even a real character, but he's in fact a character being, he's a persona. And the base actor is in fact a comedian by the name of Matt Lucas. So Matt Lucas is this bald actor, kind of close set eyes, looks kind of like a bald Boris, younger. And then his ex-husband, well, his husband who died. So this individual was married to another individual whose name I'm going to double check the name, just to make sure. I think it's Ken McGee. So you got Ken McGee and Matt Lucas. They were a married couple. About 10 years ago, Ken McGee, quote, dies, supposedly dies. Well, the story is, or this theory is, that no, Ken McGee didn't die. He just went into a gender transition, and that Matt Lucas basically puts on a wig and a skin suit and plays the role of Boris. Now, I can go far beyond just looks here, but if you look at the two, you look at the supposedly dead Ken, now rebranded as the girlfriend of Boris, well, it makes perfect sense. It all matches. It all literally lines up here. I have more pictures to go along with this. Again, it shouldn't be shocking, and I'm going to explain it clearly one more time. Basically, there's a comedian named Matt Lucas. His ex-husband supposedly died but didn't really die, if this theory is correct. Transitions into a woman and is playing the wife of Matt Lucas's new role, which is Boris Johnson. And looking at the pictures, I would say it's a 100% match. I don't think it's all that shocking. It's just a rebrand. It's definitely what we would call a deep fake. And going a little deeper down this trail, I have found videos of this Matt Lucas actually doing a very convincing impersonation of Boris Johnson, which that and his, I mean, he's been around many, you can find many examples of him in heavy disguise. Here's an example of Matt Lucas in a Miss Doubtfire style costume. So we're saying he's got a costume department. So here is Matt Lucas impersonating Boris Johnson.
Don't go to work, go to work. Don't take public transport, go to work, don't go to work. Stay indoors. If you can work from home, go to work. Don't go to work. Go outside, don't go outside. And then we will or won't, something or other.
Okay, so if you heard that, that's Matt Lucas impersonating Boris. Now, this is a very popular video, nearly viewed 1 million times since May. So this popular video by this comedian Matt Lucas, to me, might even be some mockery. That Matt Lucas, again, it's very curious that his ex looks exactly like Boris's girlfriend. It's a 100% match. Just a wig and some earrings and a good shave. Like literally not that different. So it's either just a very bizarre coincidence, this resemblance, or it is, what it appears to be. Lean Dion says it makes sense that they overemphasize BOJO's hair. Precisely. Whenever you look in deep disguise, they reverse everything. Age, gender at times, hair for sure. Adaptivia says, my favorite politician actor was Rob Ford, Toronto mayor. Exactly. Rob Ford was actually portrayed by the Chris Farley character, the individual known as Chris Farley who fake died at 33. Like Jim Belushi, another Saturday Night Live character who died at 33. Like Phil Hartman, who didn't die at 33, but he was shot 3 times in the head at 3 in the morning. Such a clown show, right? All right, Jordan says the hair alone proves he's a prop. Right, well anyway, the fact is, Boris Johnson, Prime Minister Boris Johnson's girlfriend is a death faker, formerly known as Ken McGee, husband of, and these characters are all new to me, husband of Matt Lucas, who is in fact your prime minister. Like, it doesn't get any weirder. Actually, it does, and I guarantee it's going to get even stranger the more we uncover. And this is not only plausible and believable, but at this point, I think it's almost undeniable. You have to see the pictures. I've looked at the hands. I spent all day looking at this. See here. Let's move on. A few of the topics here. Biden exit. Talked about that. Oh, yeah. So Biden exit. So Biden climbs up the stairs. He salutes. And I said, oh, this is Biden's Jim Carrey-esque Truman Show-like exit from the world stage. And now Biden says, Yeah, Kamala speaks for me. So they're already setting it up. Kamala, President Kamala, who didn't see that coming? So Boris is a deep fake. Covered that. The last caller, Stranger Days, brought this up about the concave Earth. I'm going to be touching base with that individual. So if you have any questions for him, you're actually going to be able to call in. We have this new conference call system. Appreciate all the supporters of this channel. You enable us to upgrade consistently. Let's see here. People are getting vaxxed in exchange for free donuts from Krispy Kremes. I don't know all the implications there, although some have said something about, well, Homer Simpson selling his soul for a donut. Maybe it correlates. Let's see here. Now, about the masks, to me, the topic's pretty much dead. If there was any truth to it, the anti-maskers would have auto-canceled. There would have been deaths all across BLM and Antifa for violating social distancing, but none of that came true. Mass media and establishment science has lost all credibility. So you can believe that there's like a rock gonna, kill you soon, so you should put on a helmet to protect you from, space junk or whatever. You can believe that stuff if you want to. This is where it's at. It says, I think a lot of these police videos are actually training videos. There are companies that create reenactment videos for law enforcement. Sure, that could easily be the case. In particular, the George Floyd case. There are some who think that that might have been a training video. And I have to find it, but my YouTube channel that had the comment was deleted or censored. But somebody claims that they had a friend in the Twin Cities who witnessed the George Floyd event, but that it was actually being filmed as a training video with a dummy, a lifelike dummy. And if you look into it, 7 Sigma is a company in the vicinity of that event that provides hyper-realistic training dummies going into respiratory distress for EMTs to practice intubation. So it's pretty obvious we were looking at a dummy that day, but it wasn't just that, it was a stand-in. He did his acting bit, they put the dummy in. And when you look at the body cam footage, if you care to go through it, I have to say this. George Floyd is one of the worst crisis actors in the entire world. But he and his BFF, Derek Chauvin, are probably hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein at some island. Maybe they're out there in Terra Mar, hanging out with Kobe and Chadwick Boseman and a few others who didn't die. Phones are open, 833-311-1984. So topic at the moment was Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, is quite obviously a costume. It's a big clown suit with a ridiculous haircut. And his girlfriend is, in fact, Ken McGee, who faked his death a little over 10 years ago. Went through the transition, and now he is the sidekick of his ex. They obviously never broke up. And they're both in on this con. I mean, this is amazing. And it makes me wonder, if you were to tug on Donald Trump's chin, would his face come off, and who would be beneath it? If we had a Scooby-Doo moment, Gerald Kushner, who's wearing the Donald Trump suit? Somebody said Martin Sheen. Let's see what else we have here. Van Gogh says, I think somebody could easily kneel the way that dude did, not actually hurt the person. Look at his legs and knees and where his weight was actually being applied. Well, remember, before he even was put on the ground, I'm talking about George Floyd, he was in the back of the SUV and he was screaming, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And I'm like, wait, they're not even kneeling on him yet. So it kind of looked to me like an amateur crisis actor. They're doing it in one take, so the director's not there doing it shot by shot, feeding him lines. So he's just like, here, they paid him whatever and said, say you can't breathe and just go through this whole thing. So I think he's just a bad crisis actor. So the story doesn't even make sense. Now, the narrative, though, is there. He was asphyxiated. He was crucified. Derek Chauvin, Western chauvinist, a hangman, of the system based on structural racism basically crucified Black America. Like, the story sticks. You can't reverse that. I mean, we've analyzed this thing ad nauseum. We know how it works, the symbolism, how it is intricately connected to 9/11. If you look at the narrative, the story, they integrated the George Floyd event with 9/11 in so many ways. There's no reason to think anybody there actually died. But like I said, it's too late. Reality is what 99% of the Matrix batteries believe it to be. Whatever they feed into the system. I mean, most people are quite literally filtered beings. They have you have your five senses. Well, their five senses are negated by computer models and false explanations. Van Gogh says Hanks had a code tweet before it happened, basically calling the entire event the Floyd thing. Yeah, let me show you something here. So, Gary Vaynerchuk. If you don't know who he is, we'll get to that later. Infinite Plane Radio, do you think that George Floyd is alive and well?
Hell yeah. I definitely think. I don't know, bro. He might have died before that. I don't even think that video was shot in the COVID era during the new normal. You know what I mean? Nobody's masked up. Nobody turns around. It looks like that one, like, it's just like Trayvon and all that, all the symbology around them. I can't really call it, but I'm like really, not to change the topic though, real quick though, I'm really fascinated about this Terra Mar thing, and just Lane Maxwell. Like, how much information you have about that?
Well, during the deposition, when they first started interviewing Ghislaine, they said, are you a citizen of any other countries or nations? And she said, Terra Mar. And that's how it came to my attention. And it's her nonprofit ocean conservancy group. And the whole premise of it, supposedly, is that something like 60% of the waters are uncharted, so that you could go out and claim a certain area or something, that you're part of a nation. And to me, it's just as phony as like the Asgardian space nation. But anyway, the whole thing is, what is somebody associated with a sex trafficker who's all about islands where his victims are kept? What is he doing hanging out with somebody who seems to have some type of connections to places out in the high seas?
That's so crazy, bro. Like, I looked at the passport. Like, it looks like they were like trying to get actual passports. To me, it seems like they were trying to spin it, like she was trying to say that they actually had land, because the premise of the actual water, you can't be a citizen of the water, and that's how the mainstream type of people. Like, I just started like reading about it, and it's just really fascinating. Have you seen the King Kong trailer?
Is there a new King Kong? Because no, I haven't.
Yeah, King Kong versus Godzilla, and I think it's like a flat Earth dome movie, bro. Like, in the trailer, Kong, like, he rips up a huge tree, like rips it, and he turns it into a spear, and he shoots it at the dome, bro. It's shocking. It's kind of shocking.
Okay, wouldn't surprise me, but and this is all interesting to me anyway, because I've been kind of intrigued by this notion of giants as depicted in myths,
Yeah.
and then also this idea that mountains are actually the petrified remnants of giant trees from some prehistorical era. All these things are very interesting, and there's always so much truth in these movies. I may actually check it out. I saw the graphics on Godzilla, and I think it's really interesting. I'll probably look.
Like Gulliver's Travel, Jack and the Beanstalk, like the New York Giants. Like, I'm starting to really, like, I don't know, like, I'm really not confused about it, but like, as to really where we're at, like the Earth, like are we in somebody's server? Like, I don't know, like like the whole scope of it, like it's kind of overwhelming when you look at that Antarctica. What is it? The giant stumps, the tree stumps. That's just like kind of mind blowing.
Right, exactly. I found that was the strange thing. Okay, so if you haven't seen it, people listening, there's a base in Antarctica, the one close, and it basically looks like this giant tree stump that it's on top of, and it's just like, okay, well, that's what it looks like. Doesn't mean that's what it is, but there's a discussion group on Facebook that has something like 35,000 people talking about it. So Reuters is doing damage control to say, no, there aren't any massive, gigantic tree stumps in Antarctica. And I'm like, well, why would they have to do damage control on such a ridiculous idea when there's probably more people that believe in unicorns?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then I'm gonna let you go because I'm pretty sure other people are gonna call in. But what's going on at the border? I think it's just opening up a door for a lot of bad things happening. Like in Florida, people that are getting benefits, they have to take like video selfies even after you have IDs and all this stuff and all that. People have to actually take a video selfie and stuff like that, and everything at the border and all these crazy shootings, and they're so fake now. Like there was a shooting in Indianapolis. This dude, he shot up a family and his girlfriend over a stimulus check, and his last name was Half Acre, and it was just like, I was like, it made me think about 40 acres and a mule, like, I don't know, the stimulus check just correlate. I don't know, that one really just bugged me out. But I'm like, with everything going on at the border, like, is there going to be, and COVID, do you think that they're going to try to like roll out the next set of lockdowns and stuff? And I'll hang up and get your perspective on it.
Awesome. Appreciate that, and I'll address that. And I think you're right about that. We know that the border thing is a fascinating topic because I think it correlates to the vax thing. And again, we're talking about the polarizing issues about boundaries. And so the left primarily is open borders, the right would be closed borders. Left is open skin, as in your own personal border for the vax, where the right is typified as the party of, or the side that represents the anti-vax. And these are things they always play on, these primal fears of invaders or invasion. And I remember a lot of the propaganda that had people chanting, build the wall, had to do with MS-13, jumping the border, killing people along the border. But the mass media won't talk about it because it doesn't fit their narrative. And I kind of believed that for a while. But the more I look at it, the more I think a lot of the border violence could even be as overstated and exaggerated as the fake school shootings and a lot of the fake hate crimes. But that being said, yeah, there are definitely destructive policies in place, and bringing in a new element, like, for example, people from other countries and saying, well, they weren't vaxxed, they can use that, absolutely, problem, reaction, solution, and the masses will believe it. And it'll feed into the xenophobia. So I think they're probably going to go with that. But these names, like somebody's name Half Acre. We were looking at the names of the shooting victims in Boulder. We're looking at the names of the characters at the riot on 1/6 at the Capitol. And these names were always, I think, indicators that we're looking at a meta script. We're looking at story writers. And one of the things that stood out to me, and I was looking at this today, the names, is Babbitt. Remember the character Ashley Babbitt, the one that was shot in the neck as she was climbing through the broken window at the Capitol? I mean, totally fake, obviously. She fell on her back. Her back had some kind of a pillow in there, a pad. It was an operation. It was a psyop. We don't even know if that event, that shooting, happened concurrent with the event or if it was filmed a month prior. I mean, that's how fake this stuff can be. My point is, I was like, well, her name Babbitt most likely is from Lewis Sinclair's book, The Babbitts, about these conservative Americans terrified by encroaching communism, wrapped in the American flag, uber conformists. Well, here she is, literally wrapped in an American flag when she gets shot. So I figured, okay, well, Babbitt probably comes from there. But then I've noticed in other depictions of this character, she's ranting and raving while driving. She seems angry, a very angry woman. And people noticed, well, her name is very reminiscent of Bobbitt, as in Lorena Bobbitt. You know, the woman who basically castrated her husband. And I thought, well, what's the correlation there? And I remembered something, and I think this might tie it together. At the Capitol riot, where Babbitt was shot in the head, there was another individual who tasered himself in the genitals. And I think this is probably, again, indication of story writing. But basically, a man at the Capitol riot dies after actually tasing himself in the testicles. He had a heart attack. I've never heard of such a thing, but that's the story that got out there. So anyway, it would explain the name Babbitt, which is very close to Bobbitt. And these are just a couple examples. I mean, there's so many more examples. Like, you know, you take Dr. Fauci. Spell his name backwards. You know, an F-A-U-C-I. It's I-C-U-A-F. I cough. Dr. I cough. Probably not a coincidence. Probably not a coincidence that Fauci means sickle, like the Grim Reaper. Or that you could easily scramble Dr. Fauci into Dracula if you're willing to tilt the F over into an A. The Missing says, Tom Cruise was in a movie. He played a character with the last name Babbitt. The movie was Rain Man. Haven't seen it. I'll have to check it out. Tom Cruise is of particular interest as a world stage character because of his role, I think, his pivotal role as the Jesus Christ of Scientology. His role in a Stanley Kubrick film, Eyes Wide Shut, which, again, Stanley Kubrick released that film on the 30th anniversary of the Apollo 11 hoax. And I think that Tom Cruise's upcoming role in the first movie to be filmed in space. That's the main role of his life. It's going to be his great work, I do believe. Again, Tom Cruise is going to film the first movie in space this year. And they're saying that unironically, like it's the first movie in space. Anyway, the fact is, the first movie in space, well, we all know the story. I don't want to get too distracted with that. We've been talking about Kubrick. 9/11 being another one of his productions. You can find convincing examples of predictive programming and foreshadowing in Kubrick's films about coronavirus, about 9/11, and about what I think is going to happen with the space station very, very soon. And do you remember I was talking about the meta script and all these various hints about the dates and how 3/11 in particular seemed to correlate with this sky falling agenda? Well, interestingly enough, on March 11th, and I didn't get a chance to find any video of it yet, but I think I saw something on Twitter. On 3/11/2021, NASA dropped the biggest piece of space junk that they have ever dropped, and it was a 2.9 ton, basically an SUV sized piece of junk from the space station. And so I'm like, wait a minute here. I'm not quite sure how this works, this 2.9 ton piece. It says it'll tumble down to Earth in a few years. So it's not even going to fall straight down. And this isn't a joke. The best image we have is a computer-generated image to give you an idea of what they dropped. Now again, this was on 3/11. They dropped the largest piece of space junk ever. That might mean something. I kind of think so. Knockout Bear says, I'm calling Skyfall. Well, okay, there are a number of things, and this is going to require a mind map, I think. But if you do a timeline, you ought to take note of all the major tragedies around NASA and how they all take place in the same week. And when we've been calling stuff, a couple of years ago, we even called that there would be a fiery explosion in the air third week of January 2020. And sure enough, Falcon 9 was incinerated in the air by the Dragon capsule. or in dragon's fire, as it was described. Sacrificed, in fact. That's the word they used. Now well, it was in February, there was a couple of things that happened. Look, here's a couple of things. 3/11, let me see if I can this is all really just, I don't want to get too sidetracked. But there's a few things, okay? So we've had examples of plane parts falling on houses. Weird tie-ins to the Donnie Darko movie, for example. This comes out, space junk, or rather, there's a piece of space junk from a Chinese rocket that was seen over Queensland. So people are being acclimated to the idea of stuff falling from the sky. And now you have a show on NBC called Debris about stuff falling from the sky. And in this case, the falling debris is from an alien craft that Space Force blew up. So if you find a piece, you get contact traced. That's another nice element to this whole thing. They tie it all together. And there's a Leonardo DiCaprio movie out called Don't Look Up about asteroids. Knockout Bear says strategic drops on Republican voters. Yeah, I'm sure they'll drop them in Texas. By the way, the blackouts in Texas that we saw, was that the dark winter? Like, is that the best they can do? I mean, if you think about it, everything we're saying here is just good news. The pandemic, that was really just a pandemic on TV. Space junk doesn't really exist. All the things they teach you to fear. Like when you're a kid, the very first time they ever use what I would consider to be trauma-induced mind control, you're a kid, they're like, okay, this is what you live on, it's a ball, and these creatures, these dinosaurs, used to be here. And so you grow up playing with dinosaurs. There's dinosaurs on your clothes. Your nurseries are always styled with dinosaurs for some reason. Everything, all the kids' movies have dinosaurs in them. But then once you're able to talk, they explain to you, oh, well, the reason why you won't ever see these things in the zoos is because a big rock fell from the sky, killed them. It was a mass extinction event. So before you even learn your name and how to pronounce it properly, you know how to say mass extinction event. That's like trauma-induced mind control. 1 minute you're watching children on the TV hugging Barney, the dinosaur, and then the reality of it, the reality of science. It's all doom and gloom. Knockout Bear says, are you afraid of the dark is their last game, sun blotting? Yeah, all of a sudden Bill Gates decides that he wants to blot out the sun like, what is it, Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Now, none of this makes sense. So a year and a half ago, well, about a year ago, actually, when they started really kind of looking at what the results of the lockdown would be, how is this going to affect us and the world? They were saying, well, look, it's going to clean our air. And they said that the shutdowns in China were actually cleaning the air so much that the number of lives saved would be greater than the number of lives lost to COVID. That more people die from pollution. They said that the waters in Sicily were running clean. The air over San Francisco was breathable. They were just talking, this is from NASA's point of view. They said, hey, COVID-19 is the best friend Mother Earth has ever had. Well, this, again, you move forward and it's like, well, the greenies love it. And they say, well, why should we reopen the economy? Mother Earth is finally healing. Let's just use this as an opportunity to reset, to build back better. So that's the program, building back better because shutting it down was so good for everything. Well, this is the thing. All of a sudden, they kind of changed the story and they said, well, actually, no. Because we're not out there polluting, now there aren't enough particulates in the air to blot the sun, and now the earth is heating up. So we've actually accelerated global warming by taking the advice of all the greenies. So now they don't want to reopen the economy and let us just start polluting again. So their solution is, oh, let's just have Bill Gates find a way to blot out the sun for us. Tyrone McCloskey says Mae Brussel was decrying space mirrors would be used as weapons back in the 70s. Old tropes, space weapons. You know, when I was traveling this last week, I did pass through a part of Nevada where you have this solar farm, and you have these towers with mirrors that reflect the sun down onto the solar panels, just intensifying it, magnifying the brightness, and it's just a field of light. It's quite incredible. But the idea of space weapons, I think, is it sounds kind of ludicrous. Lasers, you know, Star Wars, that kind of stuff. But I'm not quite convinced that they don't have some trick up their sleeve. Like, what about kinetic weapons? What about dropping tungsten rods from stratospheric balloons and just claiming that these things are coming from, you know, aliens or something? You know, Elon Musk, let me just, as a side note, Elon Musk is putting 42,000 CubeSats in space to deliver high-speed internet. 42,000. We all know that number connects explicitly rather, to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. All of his endeavors, all of Elon Musk's endeavors tie to that book. Well, if you watch the movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and one of the characters is the basis for Richard Branson's persona, by the way. But if you watch this movie, even just the opening scene, and I recommend it with the volume off, like it's unwatchable, it's unlistenable. But if you can watch the first couple minutes, you have what looks to be about 42,000 cube-shaped UFOs that surround the Earth and blow it up. That's the opening scene. CubeSats surrounding the Earth, 42,000. Well, I don't believe in orbiting satellites. I don't believe in orbit. But I could see 42,000 stratospheric balloons dangling telephone pole-sized tungsten rods above every major populated area in the known world, and Musk just has to push a button and they all fall down, just basically leaving craters wherever we're sitting right now. Like, I think that could be done. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, they're called rods of God. So rods of God are these kinetic weapons, tungsten rods. They're called, and these are from the Air Force. It says here these are lazy dog projectiles. They can hit with the force of a nuclear weapon with no fallout, reaching speeds of 500 miles per hour, penetrating concrete after being dropped from as little as 300 feet. So again, we're talking about hypervelocity rod bundles, kinetic weapons, dropping these things from on high. It says here the 107 country outer space treaty signed in 1967 prohibits nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons being used on Earth or in orbit. But they didn't prohibit explicitly these things. These things kind of get through the cracks. Intercontinental ballistic missiles you can block. You can put treaties out that prevent you from using these, but these are just dropping objects. And these things are 20 feet long, 1 foot in diameter, capable of speeds of 10 times the speed of sound. It says these rods would actually penetrate hundreds of feet into the ground, destroying bunkers. These could be deployed and destroy a target within 15 minutes notice. So Elon Musk is a very Willy Wonka-esque character most of the time, but there are other times where they've associated him with Tony Stark, Iron Man. Now, Iron Man, in this story here, of course, it's all just, well, an attempt to build up this persona. But he's been compared to Tony Stark, as in this real-life character. But more recently, the U.S. military had a contract with Musk, and they were talking about how they needed him to be able to deploy weapons anywhere in the world in a very short amount of time. You can find many articles here how Elon Musk became the real-life Iron Man. Elon Musk aka Tony Stark, may be the real Iron Man. And there's so many different characters they've attached to him, in addition to the fact that he's actually a character right out of a Von Braun story. But my point is, he has these military contracts. So in April, SpaceX got this contract with the Air Force, $90 million or something. So Space Force is already working with Musk. Just seems like it's in the cards. If anybody has a deck of the Illuminati playing cards, I'm curious to see if there isn't some sort of event at some point. Maybe this is Project Bluebeam or something. Will they start dropping stuff on us? How easy would it be to fake a falling satellite? Super easy. Let's see. Tyrone says the rods would have to have a power source beyond gravity. Infinite Plane Radio, what do you think? Is Musk going to destroy the world with kinetic bombardment from, quote, space?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about what Musk is going to do. It is very interesting that he's pushed so hard by the establishment, and then people think he's not an establishment puppet. But
right.
Yeah, that's an interesting prospect there. Hopefully not.
No, good point, though. Good point. How is he able to play this role of being against the establishment, against fascism, lockdown suck, I'm moving to Texas, when he's one of the space popes? He's at the top of the pyramid in terms of... Yep, exactly.
Or he's up there. I saw on Twitter, they had how they push stuff in your face and they'll say like, oh, we're going to suggest this. This is a topic that you might be interested in, and here's a tweet. And there was a topic called Elon Musk, and it was just an Elon Musk tweet. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have this guy blocked. I don't know why you guys are pushing this to me. But yeah, like, why would Twitter be pushing this guy so hard? And everyone loves him. Or not everyone, but way too many people.
Well, definitely people have bought into the utopianism, and Mars is actually something that is suddenly on the table again. Like, it's not even a joke. And I don't know what they're going to do about the people who don't believe in it, who mock it. Maybe they'll just censor us, but there are people who will essentially go into indentured servitude for a chance to go to Mars, and they'll get into his rocket. And, even, okay, I don't know if you saw this, but on his last launch, the Starship launch, it looked very fake, and I couldn't explain how did they record it from below without the drone cameras being melted. Well, he actually tweeted a picture of his own rocket, and he said, quote, wow, the simulation really struggled to make it look real this time.
Yeah, I saw you taking to Twitter and asking these diehards, these blowhards, about how it was filmed, and it was so fake. And you did a great job covering that and pointing out some of the sheeple out there and their reactions were pretty priceless.
Oh, precisely. And yeah, he actually said this. He said, the simulation struggled to make this look real. Ha ha. And if you look at the screen, this is literally a tweet from Elon Musk, and it is easily identifiable, readily identifiable as computer generated. And he's actually mocking how fake it looks. And I don't know if you can help the people who still believe this guy is some sort of a world savior. They're beyond help at this point.
Right. The rocket is totally fake, and then let alone the end trail, whatever you want to call that thing, the jet propulsion. It's just a total hoax. I mean, it's like it doesn't look like it would sustain the weight of that thing, this little puny flame coming out the bottom.
Yeah, that part I find to be very cartoonish, and I'm still looking for some secondhand footage. You see people, but they could be CGI. They're holding up phones, but I don't see their footage. I don't see any secondhand footage. And if I was Elon Musk and I had billions, I would have a swarm of drones pre-positioned. I would have so many angles of this thing covered, but we don't have it. So I'm not even convinced that they're even launching anything. I mean, it could all just be CGI at this point.
Right. It's all just CGI and propaganda, I think, totally. And I saw that you got banned, I think, on Twitter by Dithra and Eric Dubé. Is that right? And you got another YouTube channel deleted. So you must be striking a chord with some people.
Oh yeah, Dearth blocked me, Eric Dubé blocked me, and then Twitter actually blocked me out for 12 hours over a satirical joke I made about satanic nanobots. And I appealed it, and I said, this is obviously a joke. And they said, no, it's dangerous misinformation.
Wow. Usually Twitter will let stuff fly compared to the other tech tyrants. But, yeah, that's crazy. Hey, I wanted to run something by you, but you might be locked out of your Twitter. I just sent it to you via tweet, but I can put it here in the YouTube chat too. Basically 9/11 footage I've been watching all week, just the South Tower getting hit over and over again. And there's weird footage that's emerging of no planes in these famous shots. And I don't know what to make of it, but I guess it could be fake just like the original, or just like any other footage. We don't know exactly which one's the fake and which one's the real. Like an object could be removed from a video just like it could be added. But I just find this like mind-boggling watching these clips.
Yeah, actually, I did in fact retweet one of those yesterday or the day before. And it's basically, yes, there's two videos that I found. One is a group of people on a rooftop, and the explosion on the South Tower happens, and there's no sound or indication of a plane. And then there's another one, which I have on the screen now. It's a handheld camera. It's moving around and shaking, and the tower spontaneously explodes. No indication of a plane. And in one of the videos that I found, might even be a third one, this guy's in a parking garage, and he's talking to somebody on the phone, and he says, no, there is no plane. So I have come across 3 of these since really, I guess, the 19th anniversary of 9/11, and they're all plane free. And yeah, it is mind-boggling. It is absolutely. This is actually a major. If these videos are accurate here, this is a major revelation.
Yeah, I wish I was better at video forensics, but it looks legit to me and I just don't know how these, like, it is mind-boggling to say that again, because it's like, how would this footage even have come out? I guess maybe they would buy the rights off someone who actually caught it on film and then add a plane in, and then somehow by the magic of the internet and the hive mind, it gets recovered and surfaces. I'm not sure. I guess maybe that's one idea, but if it's just all fake and it's their assets in the field, did they get hacked or something? Like, how did this get out?
Okay,
now, that could be somebody.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on how it got out?
Well, I have to be skeptical about everything we see. Even if I don't believe that there were planes, it doesn't mean that somebody didn't just take one of these plane footage videos and take the plane out, So I don't put that past anyone, especially because I've seen clips before where someone's like, here's how easy it would be to add a plane. And maybe someone just took like a video from one of those and then presented it as if it was like the smoking gun proof. But I don't know. I'm not good enough at forensic video analysis to tell whether there was a plane or not. I mean, I've seen enough really weird stuff that makes me think that those planes are computer graphics, but I don't know if that validates these other clips.
Okay, I saw one that I found to be really interesting where you had 2 different side-by-side time-stamped clips of the plane hitting the tower, but the explosions were actually off by a few seconds, depending on which agency reported it, but the audio was aligned. And there's a couple of continuity flaws and glitches like this, buildings that were reported to have fallen before they actually fell. And the more I look at these things, the more I think, no, the level of pre-planning suggests that a lot of this footage could have been even, like, for example, the CGI plane, that just needs to be another layer inserted over a live feed. It's actually so simple. Or it could have been created in advance.
Right.
But that's what I'm thinking here. It had to have been created in advance.
September Clues is a fascinating series. I don't agree with everything in there, but they had one part in there where they were doing analysis on the sound. And one of the famous clips was like a backwards symbol. Like you turn it backwards and it's clearly a symbol. So it's like these people were just like banging on file cabinets and random stuff using like film grade sound effects sometimes, and the audio doesn't match from clip to clip. And then also there's that one where the camera drifts a little bit and it pokes through the building. And that one's really interesting too, because they start with this really wide shot and there's no plane in sight. They keep zooming in, and then they're real close to the buildings at that point, and then you see this plane come out of nowhere into the frame. You're like, we would have totally seen that in the wide shots. And that was one of the only shots they aired live on TV. It was the High 5 helicopter for Fox 5, I think. And they never used that footage again because it was such a failure. And they even like copyright strike it sometimes off YouTube, I believe, just to keep people from seeing it, which is totally just crazy to me.
Right. Well, I don't think that the average conspiracy theorist could have figured this thing out 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, I really think that there are so many things that you have to take into account. Like, who would have thought it's possible for the media to actually insert just complete fabrications into the news cycle, and then the public just accepts it as real just so easily, and moreover, that it could be done internationally across the media globally. And that shows you how monolithic it all is. And that's one of the things that this research into Stanley Kubrick has kind of had me look into, just how monolithic the big stories are. So if they're planning something 30 years down the road, they're clearly planning for it to be depicted the same way universally. They're not going to have any country calling another country's psyops out. They always agree on these things. And coronavirus shows us this.
100%. And there's so many weird things with all the footage. Like there's obvious layer jobs that are done. And I'm putting out a documentary. I've been like watching clips for like the past week. It's been pretty trauma inducing. Like you talked about earlier, the trauma-based mind control. I totally see how this traumatizes people, especially how many times it was looped. But there's like bridges that in one shot from the same angle are like way over on one side of the frame, but then in another one they're like drifted far to the left. Just impossible perspective changes, and buildings that are in places they shouldn't be in the same clip, but like cropped and with like a tree layer added on top. And then the color scheme looks like it was out of some like I'm drawing a blank on an artist to refer to, but just crazy color schemes, like pastels and just totally washed out backgrounds. And it doesn't look like photography at all. It's like the hue was being adjusted, and they were airing the same shot with like drastically different color profiles to make it look different on each of the 5 different cable channels that were covering it. But yeah, you're right. Back in the day, like people just watched the TV and they thought they were getting so much, such a worldly view because they had 5 news channels they could choose from. But it's all the exact same propaganda.
It's all monolithic, and that's one of the keys here. Stanley Kubrick's movie Space Odyssey has this monolith, and the monolith is key because its proportions relate to the movie screen. And I think that's ultimately what we're looking at here, a monolithic worldview being installed. And you mentioned how it's like MK Ultra or mind control, or rather trauma-induced mind control, when you're watching this stuff repeatedly. And how many times did we watch the plane go into the building under the assumption there were people on there screaming and dying? And if you look at Stanley Kubrick's movie A Clockwork Orange, one of the more popular scenes or images from this movie is the character with his eyeballs propped open while he's forced to watch violent films in order to desensitize him. And I'm like, well, this is Stanley Kubrick admitting that, this entire psychodrama is meant to traumatize everybody into submission. And that's what I think it really is.
Right, they can control people's minds just through audio and visual from a video. And just the amount of screen time, video time they have people in, from these Godzilla movies to the cable news to the cartoons. And people think they're watching all sorts of different things from all sorts of different creative minds, but really it's all mind control. It's crazy. And Yeah. But looping back, you covered an interesting claim about Boris Johnson that I wanted to touch on too.
Please, yeah, let's go into that because that's great. Boris Johnson and his girlfriend have a curious resemblance to a famous comedian, Matt Lucas, and his ex-husband, who would be portraying the role of Boris Johnson's girlfriend. And yeah, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
So it looks like it's a possibility. I wouldn't say 100%. I don't even know if I'd say 30%, but it is a possibility. And if I was just looking at the male, the Boris Johnson and the actor maybe that plays him, I would say that's a stretch. But when you bring the so-called girlfriend into it, this becomes much more of a possibility. Like it just, yeah, something about this is very strange. Now that Boris Johnson has a father who I guess is a prominent politician, and he's called for depopulating Britain down to like 15 million from the current 70 million, or if you ask Google, it's like 66.66 million. But that's a huge colon, and he does kind of look like the son here. So I guess I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like, did they take the dad, who's a prominent guy, and they're like, okay, this is kind of the template, and let's make this actor look like him? I mean, he did a great impression of Boris, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, when we're looking at this thing as these deep fakes, there's usually a narrative support for it. So I have to look into the background and the characters because that's usually what supports it. And in this case in particular, if I looked at Matt Lucas and Boris Johnson, yes, it's obvious that Matt Lucas as a comedian can impersonate the guy and you put a wig on him. Yeah, you could do it. Special effects, yeah, it's fakeable. But I would still be on the fence. Like, why would you even assume the two of them would ever cross paths or that he could portray this guy? But you throw the girlfriend into the mix. And then Matt Lucas's husband, who's now the girlfriend, fake died about 10 years ago. Well, that looks like 10 years of age. And then, of course, the transition. So that seals it for me that this is highly likely. And even if it's not true, I would like for this to go viral just so that the hive mind of the internet could just explore the possibilities and see, is there anything to this beyond, just the bizarre entertainment value of it, if nothing else.
Right. I think we need to up our game as far as video analysis. I think that would pay dividends if we could figure out, the best video analysis tools. Like, for example, this guy's eyes seem like there has to be some big change, maybe contact lenses or something to get to Boris. If this is, a valid theory. But yeah, it's very interesting the fact that they could just fabricate these people and they could just be playing, a cruel joke on us. And yeah, Boris Johnson almost seems like he's doing a comedy sketch. Like it makes sense when you think about it as like a comedian just like totally messing with us.
Right, it really does. The whole thing has this sense of mockery around it. And a lot of this stuff that we talk about, the symbolism, the scripting, a lot of the comedic value of it is very much like Shakespeare. And so if you look at it from that perspective, like Chris Farley faking his death and coming back as Rob Ford, this is par for the course. It's really what you would expect, if you ask me. I'm not shocked by this possibility.
Now, I guess it could also go the other way, right? It could be Boris Johnson playing a comedian.
Well, the age would preclude it because Boris Johnson would be older than Matt Lucas. So on this one, I remain somewhat undecided, but I'm still, the girlfriend thing sells me on this one. As far as, what are your thoughts on Joe Biden? Because see, he did this little clumsy exit, or rather climb up the stairs, and now he's actually saying Kamala Harris speaks for me. You think they're shuffling him off the stage?
Yeah, I do. And it seems, speaking of comedians having a joke, it seems that going up the stairs thing reminds me of some like Jim Carrey, slapstick comedy routine. But yeah, and I don't know if you saw, it's like the number one what's happening on Twitter right now is Kamala Harris doesn't have to salute the military people. It says here, the U.S. Vice President is not required to salute military personnel. experts and fact checkers report. It's like, why are you pushing this so hard, Twitter? And the first thing they reference here, no, the presidential salute still isn't a thing, and neither is the vice presidential salute. So Harris is just on this power trip right now. I don't know if you've seen this, where she doesn't salute any of the people outside the planes or the buildings, and which kind of sucks for them, because I think that you have to keep saluting until they salute you back. I'm not exactly sure the protocol, but it's just like, what a dick move.
Oh yeah, I mean,
she strikes me as.
No, I mean, if somebody salutes an officer, and I used to hate them, the ones who would do this. If they were cool to you, they would salute and say at ease, and you could just relax again. But if they were uptight, like a lot of them were, and you knew who they were, so you knew how to avoid them, you're like, okay, this guy is going to make you stand at attention. You're going to have your salute up, and he's just going to keep on walking slowly, and you're just going to stand there like a statue, at his pleasure. And so that is definitely a power move. And if she's doing that, then yeah, it's clearly a power move, and it's probably aggravating for them.
Yeah, she doesn't seem like she's going to stop doing it, because the press is basically like getting everyone to applaud her as if it's some like brave and bold statement. Oh man, it pisses me off, honestly. But yeah, it's back to Joe. I think they are phasing him out. But Kamala strikes me as she's going to be some like awful tyrannical leader, like she was back at California Attorney General, where she had that journalist's house raided for the Planned Parenthood expose. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Kamala? Are they gonna like we talked about this earlier? It's almost as if like Joe's doing such a bad job, or whoever's playing him, so that the extra effect will be there when they roll in Kamala.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was the case from the beginning. I figured that it's President Harris, President 47, that Joe was basically a sacrificial king, a sacrificial role that he was playing, that he's more or less giving us a visual on the literal death of entrenched white power or something. Like there's some kind of a thing being played out here, I think, with Joe Biden being this old, ineffectual white man dying in front of us and feeble, and then she comes out strong and powerful. So I kind of think it's a sales pitch, and they're just leading up to it. And he's doing this as a concession, kind of like the kneeling that they do. It's a concession, and again, I think that's the end goal here. I think that was it from the beginning.
I also, though, I see Joe Biden doing some more executive orders, and he's kind of been ruling from that pen there. And I see him doing some more executive orders about the gun control or the gun grabbing very, very soon here, if the Senate doesn't pass the bills. But maybe that's the way they'll go. They'll just actually codify this. But
well, did you notice though
I appreciate you taking.
Well, really quick though, did you notice though that he went after the guns right after they had some victory in Boulder, and then they have the shooting there? I mean, just how convenient. They have the examples to point to whenever they want to pass some legislation. Like, this is why we need this. How convenient. It's like they just snap their finger and they have a shooting.
Right. And I've seen you have been doing some coverage on that, and I need to watch all of the videos. I caught some of the first part, but yeah, what do you think about the shooing off of the camera person? Did you think that person was acting and they were trying to make it look like they weren't friendly with the police, or was that them covering up maybe some sort of, a drill situation? Did you know the clip I'm talking about, where there's like 10 police officers telling the independent journalist to go away?
Oh, yes. That was obviously a new development, probably in response to us. And that was what I would call a fake auto hoaxer. Basically, they know that right now, like Infinite Plane Radio, I'm sending out a ton of press passes again. And I'm saying, join the forum, post your links, do your reporting there, and I will cover it here. So I'm trying to get back into this practice of having field reporters. And I'm like, let's just go to all these events and record and report and fact check the media. So it makes sense that now they're going to have agents out there pretending to be in other words, crisis streamers. I believe MVP came up with that. Crisis streamers, basically faux independent journalists. So absolutely, I'm glad you caught that and brought our attention to it, because that was not a real reporter, if you ask me. Not an authentic individual, but he was there to make it look like somebody was actually covering a real event, and that it wasn't just a big drill.
Right, right. Did you see the guy who looked like he was in a mask? One of the police officers. Did you think that was a mask, or did he just have some flabby skin?
I didn't see that one. I'll have to check. I mean, there are so many anomalies. You have the chief there from Boulder.
Yeah.
Her last name is Jokers, like Jokerst. So
Always got to have a Joker there.
I'll have to check out the masky guy. Crisis actors had a great time. They were all smirking and laughing. Nothing about it came off as real. And nobody called out the witnesses for live streaming when they could have been applying direct pressure to bullet wounds. There was no CPR.
Right, right. And one last question I have. Someone in the chat reminded me. Have you seen? I'm sure you've seen the meme of like this guy that looks just like Kamala Harris, and some people think that is that guy playing Kamala Harris. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've seen the meme where they transitioned some individual with Photoshop into Kamala. I've seen the meme. It's
right.
It's a good meme. I don't know if that's convincing, but man, so many people go that route. What's your take on it? You think that's likely true, similar to the truth, or true?
Well, I need to find out more about this guy. I figured you might know more than I did. Is this a real person who looks like that? Or is that, yeah, like you said, is that just a Photoshop job? Because that changes everything. But, yeah, I need to do some more digging into that because I haven't really followed all the loose ends there. But it wouldn't surprise me. And if that's a real photo of a guy, I mean, it looks a lot like Kamala. And given their history of dressing men up as women and men up as other men and such, I wouldn't put it past them at all. And then starting to look at Kamala after I've seen that meme, I'm like, it wouldn't surprise me one bit, actually. But hard to tell for sure.
Right. I'll look into it. It's worth looking into. We know she employs body doubles. And I have someone who messages me, they're convinced that Kamala Harris is actually a character portrayed by Vera Farmiga, the actress, and that this actress is wearing a skin suit that adds, flesh around the face and neck in certain areas. And I don't see the resemblance very much to this actress, but the actress is good enough. She's an Academy Award winning actress. And I'm like, so many theories worth looking into. But is Kamala Harris that dude? Wouldn't shock me. It's all I can say.
Someone in the chat, Osher, brings up that there's an app that can change gender. So that's a good point. It could just be some app or Photoshop job to maybe make the truth seekers look foolish or something, or maybe just get something going viral to discredit her or whatever. So, yeah, I'll have to do some more digging. But, hey, thanks for taking my call. I love the show. You're doing a great job. Did you get another YouTube channel deleted? Is that what I saw? Or did I misread something?
Oh, besides my Twitter being, no, actually I had a couple Twitter accounts taken down last week, but I actually had two others, basically like heads of a Hydra, respawn. So right now we're on 3 YouTube channels, and I've made it easy though. InfinitePlaneSociety.com takes you right to the live links that I'm using presently. So, but yeah,
Awesome.
appreciate the call. We're doing this thing. I'm using Ring Central, so now we can do conference calls. I have a lot of guests scheduled in the coming weeks, and I'm maintaining this schedule. And I think having this schedule will increase the number of listeners and callers. So I'm really looking forward to the coming months. So yeah, call back anytime, Tim Truth. And if you want, go to the infiniteplane.media forums and post links to your channels, and people will follow up.
Yes, I will sign up. I've got to check that out. Thanks for taking the call, man. Have a great rest of your show.
All right, see ya. All right, that's Tim Truth. And again, if you go to infiniteplane.media, there's a part there where you can introduce yourself. There's also a part there for reporters. If you want to, if you're someone who regularly calls in, I'll send you a press pass. You're essential. You're media. You're no longer quarantinable and lockdownable. It's your freedom pass. All you have to do is go to infiniteplane.media, go to the forum, and join. The new press passes. So I haven't actually mentioned this before, but the press passes I used to use were from Zazzle. And after distributing lots of those last year, they actually blocked my account for no good reason. And I had them unblock it, but I was just kind of so annoyed at the fact that without any good reason at all, they refused to print any more press passes. So I switched providers. So if you look at the new ones, they're no longer on lanyards. It's a smaller strap, but I think it's a better design all around. And it says here, carrier is a field correspondent for infinite plane radio. Far more authentic than the kind of fake press passes that Antifa uses to stay out late, etc. Allie says, Tim Truth was propped up by YouTube for the 11.3 predictive programming PSYOP BS. Oh, well, the problem with that, Allie Cadet, is that the 11.3 predictive programming exists. It's real. It's there. It's documentable. And moreover, he helped expose it as I did, because we were like, well, look, if there's something pointing at 11.3 with as much predictive programming and foreshadowing as we saw with 9/11, then wouldn't it be in our interest to pay attention to what's happening that day? And he successfully ran a live stream that drew in 3,000 people. So I see nothing but a successful operation, a successful live stream with the stated intention of, let's see if somebody burns down the Space Needle that day, as we were predicting based off of the predictive programming, using that as a predictive model. And in fact, if you look 11.3, 2019, there was a Space Needle, a very large Space Needle in Turkey that in fact incinerated while we were waiting for a Space Needle to burn. So I'm just saying that conspiracy theorists, researchers, media analysts, and critics have all been very much vindicated. Tim Truth especially. Myself especially. Was it, and this guy says it was a PSYOP. I don't think so. And when you say PSYOP, what do you mean? Like, maybe you don't have an explanation. And, you know, I'm asking what your explanation is, but maybe you don't. We don't. All we know is there are many indicators that the mass media is monolithic, and that it prepares people for things that are going to happen in the future in the news through the movies, through the cartoons, the comic books, and the video games. We've seen this forever. Anyway, you're welcome to call in 833-311-1984 if you have anything to add to this topic, which isn't over yet. You know, as I said, this 11.3.311 code is all over a lot of this predictive programming. In fact, on 3/11, that's the date that the pandemic started. You know, we actually, 2 days before the pandemic, we had a live stream. We said World War III starts on Wednesday. And you're not going to find a better description of World War III than coronavirus and the elite using the pretext of a pandemic to shut everything down. So, no, actually, we are actually right and correct and have been. We've been totally vindicated. And if you feel otherwise, call in 833-311-1984. We're always looking for new information, new perspectives. I got banned from Twitter for satire. I actually have a link to the complaint they sent against me. And you can't make fun of chemtrails, QAnon, or conspiracy theories. You can't even make fun of it. If you want to go through yesterday's live stream, we talked about the super PSYOP on 322. Happened at the store number 33. There were 33 union workers. The alleged shooter was walked out at 3:30. Those are just a few among many examples of the hallmarks of the whole thing being a PSYOP, being staged. All right, so I'm going to put a link in the chat. If you want to get live stream notifications, go to Infinite Plane Society, join the Patreon, and from there you'll get live stream notifications. And also we have a regular schedule. So if you're here at this time, you can pretty much guarantee we'll be here. And if you're not able to call in when we're live, leave voicemails, and I do respond to all voicemails, even complaints. You don't have to be in agreement with us. We definitely want to hear you out. Tyrone McCloskey says, the Spanish flu in 1918 looks like a feint to keep people from questioning the reality of World War I as reported by the MSM of the time. I agree 100%. I think that the pandemic model, like the climate change model, is fallacious. And I think the elite use various things once in a while to consolidate power to shake down the masses. I feel like this was a big mob shakedown, essentially a communist revolution in a way, as far as it being an attack on property and private property and business. But, really, look who benefited. The big corporations. It's a big shift towards this fourth industrial revolution. They're forcing people, more or less, or coercing people into doing things in a way that they monopolize and control. The same way they're controlling media, they're trying to control the marketplace. And that's ultimately what it's about. Now, if you want to sell stuff on the internet, you pretty much got to kiss the ring of Jeff Bezos, who made $33 billion the first quarter after COVID kicked off. By the way, the Monday after COVID was declared a pandemic, we had a Black Monday market crash, 33 years from the prior Black Monday market crash. And that Monday was the start of season 2 of a TV show called Black Monday. Season 1 was about the 87 market crash. I mean, there are so many layers of propaganda here where they conflate reality and fiction, news and movies and games. It's no wonder most people are spellbound by this thing. They're literally just more or less prisoners of entertainment, which is really just brainwashing, but it's just very, very tasty poison. All right, this is Auto Hoax, or GTFO, by Chief Crow. I was wrong. It's not 324. The Solar Return Festival is actually on 327, and you can catch Chief Crow and others there live if you're in South Carolina. Have a great night. Thanks to all the callers. Subscribe for the archives.